Sweet ladies, you're welcome back to my channel. My name is Yinka. So in today's class, we're going to be learning how to cut 6-pieces skirt with Ankara fabric that is having border on only one side. Usually most of the time Ankara comes with border on both sides, or maybe it's just having pattern. But in today's class, I'm going to be teaching you simple and easy method of cutting it if it's having only one border, so that you can have a very good and perfect finishing. So let's get into it. All right, so I'm going to be using this Ankara fabric and I'm going to be cutting 3 yards out. As you can see from this video, the Ankara is having pattern on only one side. Can you see from the down part is having very beautiful pattern, and it's not, the pattern is not at the upper part, so it's only having that beautiful design on only one side. So I'm going to be explaining how you can cut your 6-pieces skirt so that all the pattern can align properly and then without wasting fabric. All right, so this is the 3 yards. I've cut out 3 yards, so I will just fold one side of the 3 yards like this into 2 so that I can cut 20 inches out on fold. I'm going to be cutting 20 inches out on fold. Right, so I've cut it out, and if I open it up, it's going to be 40 inches. I folded it into 2, that's why it's 20. So now if you open it completely, it's 40 inches. So the Ankara I cut out now is 40 inches, and then the length is by the normal length of your Ankara. So I will fold it back into 2. After folding it into 2, I'll fold it again into 4 like this. Can you see, leaving my space for my zip allowance. I also repeat the same thing on the lining piece. So I'm just going to directly measure the 40 inches directly on my lining, and then I'm going to cut it out. All right, so when I'm done cutting it out, I'm going to fold the lining into 2. After that, I'll fold it again into 4. I'll fold it into 4, leaving my zip allowance space. Then I will place it directly on top of the Ankara so that I can cut both the lining and the main fabric together. So after putting it on top of the Ankara, I'll rule my guideline, which is going to be just ½ inch. Please take note that part is on fold and also on the main fabric is on fold, and they are on the same line. The lining folded edge is at the same point with the Ankara folded edge. Okay, so from the guideline, I'll measure my hip line downward, and then from there I'll measure my knee, then of course the length of my skirt. But in my own case, I'm going to be making a gown, so I just place my waist length measurements at that my guideline. Then from there I'll measure my hip line, my knee line, and then of course the length of my gown. So if you're making a skirt or gown, it's still the same process. Please take note. I'm going to be taking my measurement from that folded edge. So at the upper part on the waistline, I'm going to input the nipple to nipple distance divided by 2. So I'm working with nipple to nipple of 8. So if I divide it by 2, that's 4. I had ½ inch to that measurement and put it at the hip line. So I'm measuring 4½ at the hip line. And then on the knee, I'm going to measure 4 inches. The same thing I measure on the waistline. And don't forget, my measurement is taken from the folded edge. Please take note of that. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is to connect these points together from the waist to the hip, and then from the hip to the knee. Then from the knee, I'm going to just flare it to the hem of the Ankara at this side. Hope you are following. See the way I'm curving it to the extreme end of the Ankara like this. Can you see? I hope it's clear. Please, if you have any question, kindly leave it in the comment section. I've made a tutorial on 6-pieces before, so I'm going to also leave the link in the description box. All right, so I'll go back to the zip allowance, and then I will just contour the zip allowance. All right, so I enter at the knee by just ½ inch, and I blend it to the hip line and also blend it to the waistline like this. Let me zoom so that you can see it better. All right, so the next thing now is to cut it out. But before cutting it out, I'll fold my seam allowance at the lower part. I'll just fold it directly on top of the lining like this so that I can cut All right, so I'm done cutting it out. The next thing I'm going to do is just to put my notching at the zip allowance so that I can know where the zip allowance is. So I'll open it for us now so that we can see it. All right, so if you open it up, this is what you have. This is the center front panel. And this is the center back panels. It's into two because of the zip allowance that we added at the back. So this is how it looks. So if you open the main fabric also, it's going to be the same thing. You have the center front panel and then two center back panels. So I'll keep the center front panel aside and then I'll just open the center back panels for you to see. So it's just the same thing as the lining. You have two pieces for the center back and then you have one big piece for the center front. The center back is divided into two because of the zip allowance that we added. All right, so this is how it is on the Ankara fabric. So we'll be moving forward to cut the remaining panels now. So I'll keep the panels aside. All right, so I'll take the remaining fabric from the 3 yards that I cut out. Remember, I cut 3 yards out and I already removed 40 inches from there. So I'll fold the remaining one into 4 equally. I'll fold it into 4. First fold into 2, then you fold over again into 4. Let it be into 4 folds. Look at, first fold it into 2 like this, and then you fold it into 4. Hope it's clear. And you are going to fold the lining the same way. Remember, we cut 3 yards out on both lining and the main fabric, and we already used 40 inches out of it. So I will also fold the lining into 4 as well. First fold into 2, then you fold again into 4. Please take note. So I'll place the lining directly on top of the Ankara fabric. I will align it properly. And as you can see, my seam allowance on the Ankara fabric is at this pattern part. Also, just the way it was when I was cutting the center front and center back panels. You can see where my seam allowance is at the lower part of the Ankara. So once I'm done arranging the fabric very well and everything is nice and flat, I'll go and get the center front panel. I'll get the center front panel. This is the center front panel. I'll fold it back into 2 like this. Please pay attention to this part. I'll fold it back into 2 like this. Then I'll place it at one side of the fabric that I folded. You can see the way it is. I'll place it directly like this. And please take note of the pattern. You can see where the pattern is. You can see that they are on the same direction. Please kindly pay attention to it because this is the essence of this tutorial today. All right, can you see? Place it nicely on top of it. Then let it match at the hem like this. Then the next thing you want to do now is to pin it together before cutting it out. Or if you know you can cut without it shifting, you can go ahead and cut, but I'm just going to pin it first. Note of this edge, let it align properly. So the next thing you want to do now is to pin it. So I'm going to measure ½ inch from where the front is, you know, that front here, ½ inch. Then you pin with just ½ inch all the way down. Please kindly note the folded edge of this panel is at this point, is inward. Please take note. And once I'm done pinning it, I will now cut this side off just look at the way I'm cutting it. Just use that front as a guide, and then you trim this part off from the lining and the main fabric that you folded down. All you have to do is just to trace the shape. All right, don't cut front panel. Please don't make mistake of even touching it. Just use it as a guide to trim this side. That's all. All right, so I'm done cutting. All right, so technically this ½ inch that you use in pinning it is your seam allowance for joining these panels together. It's the ½ inch for joining it together. All right. So once that is done, the next thing you want to do is to flip it open like this. Can you see the way I've done it? Flip it open like this so that you can now take your measurements. All right, so from the upper part again, I'll measure down ½ inch. Don't forget, I'll measure my hip line, then the knee length, and then you can rule it. Or you can bring back your lining. You know the shockings are on the lining before, so just place your lining and then note the hip line and the knee length like so. All right, so at the waistline, starting from this part, I'm going to measure my waist circumference measurements divided by 4 plus my 1½ seam allowance. Then I'll go to the hip line, starting from the folded edge. Hope you can see it. I'll measure the hip measurements divided by 4 plus 1½ seam allowance. And then at the knee, I will measure whatever I have at the hip line, and I'm going to minus 1 inch from it and put it at the knee. If you like, you can minus 1½, depends on your preference. All right, so but 1 is okay, but if you really want it to show your shape very well, you can remove 1½. All right, so next is to connect it together. So I'll connect from waistline to the hip line, and then from the hip line to the knee line. Then from the knee line, I'm just going to flare it to the extreme end like this. So just connect from the knee line to that down, the extreme end of that down. Then after that, we'll cut it out. All right, I'm done cutting, and the next thing now is for you to take off your pins. This particular request is been like almost 4 months. I'm sorry for attending to you this late. Is because I was really busy, so that's why. So the next thing is to put your notches in the appropriate place. All right, so I'm just going to open it. So if you open this panel that we just cut out now, we will have 4 for the main Ankara and then 4 for the lining. Don't forget to put chocks so that you will know the right side from the wrong side. So this is where I put my notches. All right, so I'll bring the center front panel back so that I can lay them all on the floor so that you can see how to join it. So you take one side panel. The ones that we just finished cutting right now is the side panels, and we have 4 of that. So place one side panel at one side and then place another at the second side of it like this. So this 3 is what you're going to join together to form your front of the skirt. So you join the 3 together like this. These are the ones that will form the front. So it's just for you to place them on top of each other, right side to right side, and you join with ½ inch seam allowance. First join one side, then you join the second side. So that's basically it. Please kindly watch the tutorial on the 6 pieces skirt that I made earlier for more understanding on the ones that the pattern are not like one side like this. So after joining these 3 panels together, this is what you will have. All right, so I'll open the back. This is the center back panels. We have 2 of that. The center back panel is 2 pieces, and this is it. So you take the remaining 2 side panels and then you place it at each of the side of the back panels like this. Can you see? So you join 2 pieces together each to form each side at the back, and then the center is going to be your zip allowance. As it is on this main fabric, that's the same way it is on the lining piece also. All right, so after joining it together, this is what you have. You can see the center is going to be the zip allowance. So after joining the center together, you attach your zip there. Can you see? And that will be the end of today's class. If you have any question, please kindly leave it in the comment section. And if you would like to see a tutorial on the upper part as well, please let me know in the comment section so that I can publish the tutorial next week. Otherwise, we'll move to another topic. Thanks for watching. Oh, let's not forget, I have a tutorial going on my WhatsApp for how you can edit your pictures, how you can move your pictures from this to this. You really need this because sometimes soft makeup photo shoots may be high sometimes, so you really need this app because it will enhance your work. It will give you a very beautiful look. You can use it to edit your background, like you remove the background of your picture. If your workspace is not so tidy, just take your picture and then you use it to remove the background. You can use it to edit your mannequin, edit yourself, a full image, a cropped image. You can do a whole lot with it. So if you will be interested in the course, the link will be right there in the description box. So just click on it and send me a message on WhatsApp so that I can add you to the group. It's not free, but it's just a very small amount. It's just for 1,000 naira, and then you have access to the course. So I'll see you in the next tutorial.